a very raw vlog. Reasons why I don't like living in Toronto / don't want to be here. Hi friends. I'm sitting in my shower right now to talk to you. Just like chat, you know, because I feel like over the past couple months I haven't really chatted much in my vlogs because I've just been in a real slump. Pretty much every April, it's like middle of May now, but every March, April I get like this wave of like depression, which could be influenced by past like traumas associated with that season, which you guys told me about in one of my vlogs where I actually told you guys I was going through that phase of depression. So I feel like I have a lot of thoughts that otherwise would have made it to the vlogs that didn't make it to the vlog due to me being in a slump. So essentially, I'm in my shower because it's loud here. There is a ton of construction in Toronto constantly, and especially in my area around the lake. It's crazy with construction, so during the day it's really, really loud, and my boyfriend has a lot of phone calls for work that he does during the day, so it is chaos outside of the bathroom. So I'm going to talk to you guys today on something that's been on my mind for a long time, and I just never really said it because I always want to give the best impression of my life, you know? I always want to keep things as positive as absolutely mentally possible, but I also don't want to give a false impression that I absolutely love where I live, country-wise. So I've been living in Toronto for about 3 years now, and in that time I've tried my best to make the best of living here. And in the beginning I was really excited because I was finally out from living with my parents after coming back from Australia after my life just kind of plummeted. So it was a big upgrade to get out of the constant purgatory that was living with my parents at my family home in the countryside. So I was really excited the first year I was living in Toronto. You know, it was new experiences, it was discovering a new city and making new friends and meeting new people in my life. After that, I guess you get to learn this city, you get to learn everything that there is to do there, and you see pretty much as much of it as you can by that point. And around the end of the first year of living in Toronto, I grew to not like it that much, and to be honest with you guys, I actually never really liked Toronto from the get-go. So I remember before I lived overseas, there was a few instances where I visited the city with friends and I really didn't see the hype about it. I thought it was dirty, I thought it was like, it didn't really feel safe, and it felt really small as well. And that kind of is my reality and my take on it, especially after living here for 3 years. You know, it's been a constant situation of myself just trying to make the best of it because it's all I have type situation. And I'm not talking to you guys about this because I want to kind of put a bad image of Toronto in your head, but it's more so I want you guys to understand that what I show you is me trying to make the best of the city and not necessarily me saying this is the best city to live in and you should live here, especially because my vlogs have always been kind of a representation of kind of travel meets my daily life. My vlog channel started with me moving to South Korea, to Seoul, and it's kind of been my life in different cities around the world since then. So I've featured Seoul, South Korea, I featured Tokyo, Japan, I featured Melbourne, Australia, and now I feature Toronto, Ontario. And out of every single city that I lived in, I think Toronto is my least favorite. And that is simply because I've had those experiences to experience other life in other cities. And I feel like whenever I kind of slightly bring up the topic without really going in depth about it, a few of you will come and say like, oh, you have a perfect life, you should be grateful, you have a beautiful apartment with a wonderful boyfriend, with a wonderful cat, you should be grateful. And it's not a matter of not being grateful for what I have. I am super grateful for what I have. I love my home. I love my apartment. I love my cat. I love my boyfriend. And I'm so happy that my choice to force myself to move to Toronto gave me these opportunities to meet my boyfriend and have this wonderful life together with him. But it still doesn't outweigh the fact that overall I don't like living in this city, and I don't really have many other options. Canada is not really a country that has a lot going on. I think major city-wise and top cities to live in is Toronto and Vancouver. I think outside of that comes maybe Calgary and Ottawa, which I've driven through Calgary a number of times and it's just not for me. And I've driven through Ottawa, not for me. I've been to Montreal, really not for me. And I just honestly, and I think a lot of you always ask me to, like, do I want to move back to Japan? Do I want to move back to Korea? And the answer is yes. And I think there might be some of you here that are new and probably weren't with me during the journey of living in Asia. And I know I gained a lot of viewers when I lived in Australia as well, and I love having you guys around and still watching me and being able to show you life in Toronto. But like, I think my heart really always has laid in Asia. And I think one of the toughest things about this pandemic situation is that we haven't been able to travel. And I think I mentioned it before, I finally got out of debt, and my debt was massive because when I left Australia, I was still a little bit in debt from moving from Japan to Australia and the whole visa application process. And then moving all my stuff across the world again. I think that overall put me in probably almost $5,000 of debt. And then when I came back to Canada, I wanted to pay that off and then move forward with my life. And like, the only way I could pay that off was if I got a job. But then the job market here didn't see my overseas career experience as valid experience. So I had to like go back to school, which put me in an additional $10,000 of debt. So I think cumulative, I had $20,000 of debt just from like everything in my life kind of going wrong in Australia, and then having to come back here and pay that off put me in more debt. So I finally paid that off last year, before pandemic hit officially, and I was so excited because I was like, oh my gosh, I finally am debt free. I can move on with life. If I want to go back to Japan, like, I can figure that out. And then, as you guys know, Honey Boy and I were going to go to Japan on a good long trip, and then the pandemic hit right at that point. And since then, like, I guess my attitude towards this city has just deteriorated more and more, because living in the city during this pandemic has changed the city. So what made it something I could make the best of before the pandemic is no longer here. So the only reason why I was content with living in the city pre-pandemic is because I could go to restaurants, I could go to bars, I could go to events with my friends and try to see the good in living in this city. And now those have been taken away for over almost a year and a half now, or more. And what's left is a lot of like negativity that I don't like about this city. Like, it's really not for me, especially because I've experienced Tokyo and Seoul, where it's a very, very, very clean. It's a huge city with lots to do. Even if the restaurants are closed, there's so much cultural stuff that you can walk to, that you can just experience without needing money. And I remember when I lived in Korea, I didn't really have the most money, so most of the stuff that I did was free things that weren't even events. It was like exploring nature and hiking a mountain and, you know, finding all the interesting trails along rivers in Japan that had like activity things to do along the way and stuff. and just seeing like random temples and shrines and just really cool stuff like that, and all the parks within it. But then like in Toronto, and I don't want to like talk bad about the city, but like honestly, comparatively, Toronto's really gross. And there's probably only one park in the downtown core that I actually like that isn't really dirty and filthy. And it's just like, for me, like, I'm gonna be honest with you guys and not sugarcoat it, because I find myself always sugarcoating the truth just to not upset anyone. But the honest truth is, like, I hate walking in this city. Like, the homeless situation here is really, really bad. And alongside with that comes a drug issue with that situation. So there's a lot of instances where you don't feel safe because there's people that are, you know, going through tough times, but with that, more often than not, they're on something, right? So you can't predict what they're gonna do. They're everywhere on the streets, and it's so sad that it's this bad here, that it's just not something I enjoy being around. It's not something I enjoy seeing. It makes me really uncomfortable having to walk through it all the time. And even where I used to work before when I was doing a customer service job here a couple years ago by now, it was just like, I always felt unsafe because I was working in an area where there was a lot of it, and they would almost gather around that area. And there were so many times I felt so unsafe. I'd have to lock the doors, and I'd call and I'd text people saying like, can you please come? Like, I don't feel safe. And it's really unfortunate that it's like that here. And aside from that, there's feces everywhere. And I know there's countries that have it way worse, and poverty is such a horrible thing, but I'm not saying or trying to say that Toronto is the worst of the worst. I'm just saying, for me, compared to living in Tokyo or Seoul, like, it makes me not enjoy the city, and it makes me long to go back to the cities where I really loved being and felt safe and were, you know, more suitable for my lifestyle and what made me happy. And I guess with this pandemic, since most people have started working from home now, there's a lot of new pet owners, which is so cute and so fun. Like, whenever you go on a walk, there's dogs everywhere. But what comes along with that is people who are irresponsible pet owners not picking up their dog poo, or just letting them poo right in the middle of the sidewalk. So anytime you walk in the downtown city, you almost have to constantly be looking at the ground, because there's literally poo everywhere. It's disgusting, and it smells like it. It's really gross. And it's disgusting, honestly. And again, I know there's other countries that definitely are way worse than Toronto. I'm aware of that. And I'm grateful that I live in a first world country that is, you know, modern and, you know, so advanced and has so many amazing benefits. But like, there's those things that make me not want to live in this city, you know? And aside from that, it's the accessibility in this city. Like, it's really not, I feel like Toronto, compared to, you know, Tokyo and Seoul, was not built with residents in mind. And I feel like Toronto was built around kind of, you know, just work and businesses, because there's not a lot of walking space. There's not a lot of trails for people to walk in. There's not even many bike lanes for people to bike through. And I don't ride a bike here because the amount of people that die and get hit by cars on bikes in this city is scary. Like, it's actually really scary, and I refuse to ever ride a bike here because of that. But for example, just walking, like, you don't really have nice options for walking compared to Tokyo and Seoul. And it's just really unfortunate, and it's really unpleasant, because when Honey and Boy and I do try to go for walks, like, you're constantly walking through construction sites, dog poo, and sharing paths with a lot of cyclists, and it's very annoying and uncomfortable having to constantly be squeezed up against fences while you walk through the city, because they didn't plan the sidewalks to accommodate cyclists and pedestrians. and it's just so poorly designed, and the transit system here is bad compared to Asia. Like, I think that we only have like 2 subway lines to connect the whole city. That rarely gets you anywhere, and it's just no good. So I just kind of wanted to, I think what I really wanted to do is stop sugarcoating things with this video and kind of share my personal reality on how I feel living in Toronto and why it's not one of the cities I've lived in that I've enjoyed living in. Even Melbourne, Australia was way better than this, in my opinion, honestly. But again, you guys, I understand. I am so fortunate and I am so privileged that I even live in a city, that I even am in a beautiful condo like this with such a stunning view of the lake, you know? Like, I am so unbelievably grateful and fortunate for what I have and who I have in my life here. And, you know, I wouldn't have had these things if I didn't, you know, take the jump and move to Toronto to begin with. But I think probably once the pandemic ends, to be honest with you all, I don't think I'm going to want to stay here. And I think I'm going to try my best to move to a city that better suits what I love out of a city. And what I love out of a city is those things that I loved in Seoul and Tokyo. You know, there were so many nice things, and I miss being able to walk alone and feel safe. And for example, on Wednesday last week, I went to the beach in a full trench coat, a full mask, boots, and I was taking product photos, and 4 different men had to approach me and try hitting on me. And I'm like, for God's sakes, like, I can't walk alone because nobody respects people's privacy here. Like, mind your own business. Like, it's so uncomfortable. I'm trying to work and take photos for my work. You can't even see what I look like. I'm in a trench coat and a mask, but they still were hovering around trying to like put their 2 cents into what I was doing. And it's exhausting, and that's in midday, and then you can't even walk alone at night here without risking like your safety, and you should have like a defense item. And I miss that about South Korea and Tokyo, being able to walk alone and it not being such an issue all the time, honestly. So thank you guys for watching and listening to me kind of tell the truth about how I feel about living in Toronto. I know this city is definitely 10 out of 10 for a lot of people, but for me and my experiences living in other cities overseas, it's not for me. And I just wanted to be honest with you guys that I try to make the best of it and show you guys the things I see that make it good, and I try not to show you the bad. But how about next time I go out and vlog, I'm gonna vlog every single piece of poo I have to try to not step in, to show you guys the reality. So thank you guys for watching. Sorry if it was a little bit negative, but I just kind of get tired of constantly, you know, getting comments being like, you should be grateful, like you have a nice home and a nice boyfriend. And it's like, yeah, but there's more to it than that. And I understand that. And it's more, you know, how I feel, and that this city is just not my favorite place to live, and I would prefer to live in a different city with my boyfriend and my cat and find a nice home there. So thank you guys for watching. Enjoy the rest of your day, and I'll catch you next time. Bye.